All right, folks. 1 October surprise that the Atlantic put out against Donald Trump. Oh, man. Oh, man. Oh, boy. Here we go. Here we go. Trump, I need the kind of generals that Hitler had. Yes, the Atlantic expose by Jeffrey Goldberg. A long, long article, which I had
he's
to
a poet
read.
warrior in the classic sense.
Yeah, a long one that I had to read. There is a bit of reading here. I made it as concise as possible to get to the money shot as quickly as we can here, but we do have to set this up a bit. So the article begins. In April 2020, Vanessa Guillen, a 20-year-old Army private, was bludgeoned to death by a fellow soldier at Fort Hood in Texas. The killer, aided by his girlfriend, burned Guillen's body. Guillen's remains were discovered 2 months later, buried in a riverbank near the base after a massive search. Guillen, the daughter of Mexican immigrants, grew up in Houston, and her murder sparked outrage across Texas and beyond. Fort Hood had become known as a particularly perilous assignment for female soldiers, and members of Congress took up the cause of reform. Shortly after her remains were discovered, President Trump himself invited the Guillen family to the White House. With Guillen's mother seated beside him, Trump spent 25 minutes with the family as TV cameras recorded the scene. In the meeting, Trump maintained a dignified posture and expressed sympathy to Guillen's mother. I saw what happened to your daughter Vanessa, who was a spectacular person and respected and loved by everybody, including the military, Trump said. Later in the conversation, he made a promise. If I can help you out with the funeral, I'll help. I'll help you with that, he said. I'll help you out financially. I'll help you. Natalie Kawam, the family's attorney, responded, I think the military will be taking care of it. Trump replied, good, they'll do a military. That's good. They'll do a military. If you need help, I'll help you out. Later, a reporter covering the meeting asked Trump, have you offered to do that for other families before? Trump responded, I have personally. I have to do it personally. I can't do it through government. A public memorial service was held in Houston 2 weeks after the White House meeting. It was followed by a private funeral and burial in a local cemetery attended by, among others, the mayor of Houston and the city's police chief. Highways were shut down and mourners lined the streets. In an Oval Office meeting on December 4th, 2020, officials gathered to discuss a separate national security issue aside from this Fort Hood. Sorry, I should have put a ... before that paragraph because I skipped over some details. Essentially, there was going to be an investigation of this death, which kind of irked Trump because he felt like the military was being sort of unfairly blamed for this at a more systemic level. At a certain point, according to two people present at the meeting, Trump asked, did they bill us for the funeral? What did it cost? According to attendees and to contemporaneous notes of the meeting taken by a participant, an aide answered, yes, we received a bill. The funeral cost $60,000. Trump became angry. It doesn't cost $60,000 to bury I'll let you read that, allegedly an effing Mexican. Wow. He turned to his chief of staff, Mark Meadows, and issued an order. Don't pay it. Later that day, he was still agitated. Can you believe it, he said, according to a witness, fucking people trying to rip me off. Kawam, the family attorney, told me she sent the bill to the White House, but no money was ever received by the family from Trump. Some of the costs, Kawam said, were covered by the Army, which offered, she said, to allow Guillen to be buried at Arlington National Cemetery, and some were covered by donations. Ultimately, Guillen was buried in Houston. Shortly after I, Jeffrey Goldberg, the author of the article, emailed a series of questions to a Trump spokesperson, Alex Pfeffer, I received an email from Kawam who asked me to publish a statement from Myra Guillen, Vanessa's sister. Pfeffer then emailed me the same statement. I am beyond grateful for all the support President Donald Trump showed our family during a trying time, the statement reads. I witnessed firsthand how President Trump honors our nation's heroes' service. We are grateful for everything he has done and continues to support our troops. Pfeffer told me that he did not write that statement and emailed me a series of denials. Regarding Trump's fucking Mexican comment, Pfeffer wrote, President Donald Trump never said that. This is an outrageous lie from The Atlantic 2 weeks before the election. He provided statements from Patel and spokesperson for Meadows, who denied having heard Trump made the statement. Via Pfeffer, Meadows' spokesman also denied that Trump had ordered Meadows not to pay for the funeral. The personal qualities displayed by Trump in his alleged, I would say, reaction to the cost of Guillen's funeral, since even that is contested. That's my editorializing there, not his. Contempt, rage. How do you say that word? I never noticed.
Parsimony.
Parsimony. I never knew if it was parsimony or parsimony. Racism hardly surprised his inner circle. Trump has frequently voiced his disdain for those who serve in the military and for their devotion to duty, honor, and sacrifice. Okay, so what they're doing here is they're basically taking a story about what an asshole Donald Trump is in private, referring to how much money does it cost to bury a Mexican? Why are they ripping me off? And they're saying this is what an asshole he is in private, which there have been so many articles and even books written about, inside the Oval Office, Trump's antics, screaming and cursing. And now they're trying to sort of morph that into a narrative about his disdain for the military and how he wants it to function a lot like Hitler's military, of course, which they're getting to here. So, I mean, this has all the hallmarks of an October surprise smear piece. It really does. And look, I'm not denying Trump is an asshole in private. I'm sure he is. We don't know whether he said those things. We can't say that for sure.
I'm gonna say this. We always want to be fair on this show. I know somebody who worked for Trump's father. I've told this story before briefly. His father had Alzheimer's later on in his life, but he was such a tough son of a bitch that he was still pretty active, even with Alzheimer's, and he had broken his hip. So they let him keep going to the office and thinking he was doing work. But he would walk out at 2:00 in the morning and wait for his limo to go to the office. Right. So my friend was hired to make sure he didn't do that. So he interacted with Donald Trump quite a lot. And I hung out with him recently, and I asked him, so what was Trump like? He said he was very nice.
No, interpersonally, yeah, I've heard the same thing. Keith Olbermann said he was a very nice guy. That's why he could pull off the McDonald's schmoozing and stuff. Now, under pressure, does he seem like a guy who would lash out in anger quite a bit at those around him and bark orders at his underlings and express frustration and rage at them? Yeah, I can buy that. We don't know or not know what was said or what was not said, but the bottom line is what he said publicly to the family, they appreciated very much, and they actually repudiate this piece, which we're going to get to in a moment here. Trump has frequently voiced his disdain for those who serve in the military and for their devotion to duty, honor, and sacrifice. Former generals who have worked for Trump say that the sole military virtue he prizes is obedience. As his presidency drew to a close, and in the years since, he has become more and more interested in the advantages of dictatorship and the absolute control over the military that he believes it would deliver. Quote, I need the kind of generals that Hitler had, Trump said in a private conversation in the White House, according to two people who heard him say this. People were totally loyal to him, that follow orders. This is absolutely false, Pfeffer wrote in an email. President Trump never said this. So they print this stuff along with the denials that it was ever said. Now, look, framing it as I need the kind of generals Hitler had is obviously not a good political look if it was said at all. We just have to keep saying that. This was allegedly said. But substantively, yeah, I mean, this is a point you've made over and over again. Trump's great crime against the deep state was his assumption that the president controlled his armed forces and not the deep state. Like that is what they hate most about him.
That's it. That's all of it. George, as is often observed, as a president, George Bush's crimes are out of proportion to anything Trump ever did, but they were crimes on behalf of the deep state.
Right.
There's no price to pay for that. Trump, look what happened when he started bombing Syria. They gave him all the signals that they were going to rehabilitate him, that the media was going to start to treat him with the kid gloves. They were going to... he learned how to be president. They were going to do all that shit. They kept telling him to go fuck themselves. He didn't get on script. He didn't get on message after that. So they went back to attacking him. That's all it's about. That, which is not to say there's nothing valid to criticize Trump about, but that's they don't care about those things.
Of course. This goes on. In their book, The Divider, Trump in the White House, Peter Baker and Susan Glasser reported that Trump asked John Kelly, his chief of staff at the time, "Why can't you be like the German generals?" Trump at various points had grown frustrated with military officials he deemed disloyal and disobedient. Throughout the course of his presidency, Trump referred to flag officers as "my generals." According to Baker and Glasser, Kelly explained to Trump that German generals tried to kill Hitler 3 times and almost pulled it off. This correction did not move Trump to reconsider his view. No, they were totally loyal to him, the president responded. So, we don't have to read the rest of this. You get the picture. Kamala Harris really jumped in front of a camera. You could tell the Democrats getting desperate, really trying to make an urgent matter of this. She gives an address at the White House, calls a press conference, and issues the following statement.
So yesterday we learned that Donald Trump's former chief of staff, John Kelly, a retired 4-star general,
as if this is
confirmed
earth-shaking
that while
news.
Donald Trump was president, he said he wanted generals like Adolf Hitler had. Donald Trump said that because he does not want a military that is loyal to the United States Constitution. He wants a military that is loyal to him.
This is a gossipy article in a shitlib rag 2 weeks before the vote, and they're acting as if this is a major national security development. We need to call an official press conference. We need a press conference. We need an American flag behind her. We need to issue a statement on this, as if this is earth-shaking news. I mean, it's really, really pathetic. That goes on for 3 minutes. I'm not going to subject you to that. We've subjected to enough Kamala word salads already today.
Yeah, and we have Trump's response, which I thought was pretty strong. You tell him. Crowd seemed to like it.
There you go. But of course, the other part of this story. Hold on, I got to get to this because this is the real cherry on top of this, and this also indicates what sleaze the media is, and this is what real Trump derangement syndrome is. It's this kind of shit when you distort and make up and insinuate and make stories out of non-stories. Look at this headline here. This is from the Guardian. Sister of slain Army private and others speak out after alleged 2020 Trump remark. They speak out after the Trump remark. So, viewers, if you were to read the Atlantic op-ed or watch a TV segment about the Atlantic op-ed or read a secondhand article about the Atlantic op-ed, since that went everywhere, and you read this headline, Sister of slain Army private and others speak out after Trump remark, what would you think they said? You probably would assume, based on this headline, that they reamed Donald Trump. Because the article puts it very vaguely, and all of the context around this story is negative press for Trump. We're not going to read this, but I just wanted to put this on the screen to show you they bury the lead in exposition. So paragraphs and paragraphs of exposition until this part highlighted here. Later on Tuesday, after the Atlantic report was published, Vanessa's sister, Myra Guillen, criticized the story on social media. So you have a headline that doesn't mention her point of view about this whole affair. Doesn't say deceased soldier's sister blasts the Atlantic over Trump's smear. No, they say she spoke out. And then they bury what she actually said halfway into the article.
Well, because they know most people don't read past the headline, and even less people read past the first 2 paragraphs.
That's exactly why. Now, they include it so they don't get accused of lying, but the intention is, of course, to mislead readers and internet browsers, right? So I don't appreciate how you are exploiting my sister's death for politics. Hurtful and disrespectful to the important changes she made for service members, she wrote, referring to a bipartisan federal law named after Vanessa, which requires, among other things, sexual harassment complaints involving service members be sent to an independent investigator, which was signed into law in 2021 by Biden. In her statement, Myra added, President Donald Trump did nothing but show respect to my family and Vanessa In fact, I voted for President Trump today. So that's her tweet. She quote tweets the Atlantic article and tweets what we just read. I don't appreciate how you are exploiting my sister's death. And in fact, I voted for Donald Trump today. And she had nothing but good words to say about his interaction with her family. Natalie Kawam, their lawyer, also disparaged the Atlantic piece and the author online. So their family's lawyer tweets out, after having dealt with hundreds of reporters in my legal career, this is unfortunately the first time I have to go on record and call out Jeffrey Goldberg at The Atlantic. Not only did he misrepresent our conversation, but he outright lied in his sensational story. More importantly, he used and exploited my clients and Vanessa Guillen's murder for cheap political gain. I would also like to point out that the timing of this quote-unquote story is quite suspicious, as this supposed conversation that Trump had would have occurred over 4 years ago. Why a story about it now? Good question. We all know the answer, of course. As everyone knows, not only did Trump support our military, he also invited my clients to the Oval Office and supported the I Am Vanessa Guillen bill, too. I'm grateful we were successful in getting bipartisan support of the I Am Vanessa Guillen Act, and because of everyone's hard work and efforts, our service members now have more protections and rights while serving our country. So you talk about a last-minute Hail Mary fucking smear piece. I mean, that is pretty egregious. It's pretty egregious. And look, there's no shortage of gossip around the Trump White House. His administration was very leaky because everybody knew they could sell a book. Everybody who worked with Donald Trump knew if they spill the tea, they could sell a book and get rich. So it was a very, very leaky White House. And yeah, I'm sure the guy is prone to outbursts and tantrums. That's not a political story. The fact that he may be an asshole in private amongst his inner circles is something that I think most people probably assume is true about Donald Trump. Bottom line here is there's no evidence he actually said what they said he said. And even if he did say what they said he said, he didn't say that publicly for the family to hear. If he's pissed off that he's getting overcharged for the funeral, it's his right to blow off some fucking smoke about that. Like he doesn't like that. That's not a statement to the family. And we don't even know if it was said. So it's just a ridiculous piece. And the response was obviously twisted around as well. The family comes out and says, we condemn this piece. And most of the articles have those deliberately vague and deceptive headlines. They speak out after the article comes out. That's media manipulation 101, folks.
LBJ, who they adore in hindsight, used to literally make people take meetings with him while he took a shit with the door
while he was wiping his ass, with the door open.
Bill Clinton was known to have these wild tantrums.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, that's not a basis. And it looks like the article is bullshit, like so much else that they say about Trump. And I don't know if you have this clip or if you're planning on playing it, but I think it was on CNN. The guy was pointing out, you know, all of these people who worked for Trump have been given the signal that they're only going to be invited back into polite company if they denounce Trump. So they're highly incentivized for career reasons, for financial reasons, to jump out and say, oh, yes, I heard him that time say he wanted to kill puppies.
Of course.
So
there's
there's
that way.
Right. There's not only is there look at the Lincoln Project. Not only is there no evidence for this, the people making the claims are highly incentivized to make these claims. And once again, this is right out of the Hillary and failed Hillary campaign book, to go and just start talking about Trump as being unfit, as being an existential danger. I think them calling a press conference just makes them look desperate, because it is so clear that this is not worthy of that.
It's not a news event. It's
not a news
story.
event. It's a campaign.
It's an article
tactic.
Yeah.
Like it's so obvious that they're trying to make a campaign tactic look like an official event, like a matter of national importance.
Right.
So yeah, it's just reading as desperation. If this is their October surprise, they should be popping the champagne corks at the Trump campaign, because that's pretty weak tea.
Absolutely.
They've been calling him Orange Hitler
Right.
for 9 years now. Like
Right.
what? You saying this all of a sudden? There are people sitting around who never heard you make this kind of a claim about Donald Trump who say, holy shit, and I was going to vote for that guy.
Right.
Who are you winning that you didn't already have? The libs will love it.
Right.
But you already got them.
Exactly. So you see folks, because, people every once in a while will call us Trump deranged because we criticize Trump for valid reasons. This is Trump derangement syndrome. So criticizing Trump.
That's the other flavor of Trump deranged.
Exactly.
If you're so Trump deranged that the slightest criticism doesn't allow you to jack off that night.
Yeah, that's also Trump derangement. So criticizing Trump for praising Netanyahu's war effort, that's not Trump derangement syndrome. That's legitimate criticism. Freaking out over Donald Trump over a likely bullshit story about how he wanted Hitler's generals, that is Trump derangement syndrome.
Of course.
Please clap.